ComC is your home for buying, selling, and flipping all the hottest trading cards. Their consignment marketplace is home to over 29 million cards, from baseball superstars like Aaron Judge to Marvel favorites like Spider-Man. ComC has something for every type of collector. Visit ComC.com today to build your collection with your favorite cards. You're listening to the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute, a podcast where we discuss both the hobby and business sides of collecting. I'm your host, Mike Sommer, and I want to help you buy, sell, and trade your way into a collection you'll love. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute. Today, we are going to continue our Super Collector series with a John Stockton Super Collector. Lou Olsen is a fellow podcast host. He's a co-host of the Hall of Very Good podcast, but he is also a John Stockton Super Collector, and he is going to be our main interview guest today. But first, I want to talk a little bit about one of my hobby observations this week, and I want to thank a few of my hobby friends who helped point this out. I had been looking at some wrestling cards, and I had noticed that the price of some of the Panini wrestling cards were starting to come down pretty reasonable. And I noticed that some of the 2021 versions of the Topps final issues that they put out, some of the Heritage, some of the Finest, some of the other international Match Attacks cards, those were getting to be pretty reasonable prices too. But today I had somebody point out, my friend Dan Bell pointed out that some 2021 Topps Heritage high number cards, hobby boxes, were down to $40 a box on Blowout. That's pre-pandemic levels for Heritage. And I noticed out there when I was looking that Topps Big League was down to $20 to $30 a box for Topps Big League, which is a fantastic entry-level set. You know, you have the chance at a nice checklist. You have a chance at autographs, some parallels. Big League is a great set. So there's some prices coming down for wax that are getting to the point where it might be fun to start buying and ripping again and going after some hits and being able to sell off the base and the inserts on sport lots. There's a chance that wax might start being in my future again here over the latter part of 2022 and into 2023. And that could be a fun little pivot back to what I was doing from 2016 to 2019. Anyway, that was my little observation this week. There's a lot of wax that is starting to become reasonable again. So if you were just completely dismissing it in the past because of how high it had gotten, you can start to maybe dig in a little bit on the big online platforms on DA, Blowout, and Steel City, and you might be able to find some good deals and have some fun. Well, let's get into this interview after I tell you about Underdog Collectibles, the online shop run by collectors for collectors that breaks new product almost 7 days a week now on Loop, Facebook, and YouTube. You can see what they're going to be breaking this week by checking them out at udogcollect.com, or you can visit their brick and mortar shop in Knoxville, Tennessee to see their full selection of wax, singles, supplies, and even watch some of those breaks live and in the shop. They're also an approved group submitter to SGC, and you can learn more about that by visiting udogcollect.com as well. And when you do, make sure you tell them that WaxPackHero sent you. Well, today we're going to continue our Super Collector series, and I am happy to welcome Lou Olsen to the show. He's the co-host of the Hall of Very Good podcast, and he is a John Stockton Super Collector. So, Lou, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. I'm very happy to be here.
I always like to get started with these conversations by learning my guests' cardboard origin story. So what got you started in the hobby?
So like most people, I'm sure, of my age, I'm an elder millennial, so late 30s. It started with baseball, and honestly, it probably started with Ken Griffey Jr. And Robin Yount for me, right? Like, because at that time, Griffey was everywhere. Griffey was the player. And so, like, growing up, I collected Griffey and Robin Yount, Paul Molitor, the Brewers guys of that time. And then sometime in middle school, I wanted to play basketball. So I went from Catholic school to public school. Okay. So now, for those of you who are not familiar with how this works, when you are like 4'4" at Catholic school, you can make the 6th grade basketball team. When you go to 7th grade at public school, you cannot. And so I got roughed up pretty bad at those tryouts. And through that, like it made me want to be better. And somehow I stumbled on John Stockton, right, as this example of kind of a physically unimposing guy, right, a physically non-threatening dude, but be that as it may, he could ball. And so from that, I started to collect his cards, and I like for Christmases I asked my parents to get me his jerseys. I still have all the jerseys that I got from growing up. So like I have the Team USA jersey. I have the old white with the music note.
Yep.
I have the purple with the mountain range from those playoff runs, right? And that kind of it never my adoration and love for him, it like never subsided either. It was something that everybody like knew. It was an identifier for me too, because people knew that I was a huge John Stockton fan, and like it was something I wore, and it did evolve into me becoming a Utah Jazz fan. But I found out after he retired that was not the case. I was just a John Stockton fan. I never rooted for the Jazz again after he left, so that wasn't it. It turns out. But yeah, so now as an adult, right? I have all my starting lineups on the wall from when I was a kid. I have my John Kostakis Point Break poster up on the wall here. But then, now I have things that adults have, right? I have a John Stockton signed basketball, a piece of John Stockton signed floorboard. I've got a bunch of 8x10s, but this show's about cards. So I guess where I'm at now, I didn't look at the exact number. I have a full inventory, but I didn't look at the exact number. I'm somewhere over 600 individual cards, and and like duplicates and extras, and like I have a couple different variants and things like that. Like I don't know, it's like 14 or 1500 ish. I don't know, it's a lot. And again, it's because I've collected it my whole life. So like, for people who just go to card shows casually, right? And again, before it was super duper popular, Sean and I would go to sports shows to talk to guests or meet potential guests, right? And from that, I would just go sift through, look for Stockton cards that I didn't have or that I wanted. And the thing is that until cards really blew up recently, nobody gave about John Stockton cards. Now all of a sudden there is this weird uptick in people collecting him, which is weird to me. But I just did it. And again, I don't mean to sell myself short on your show, but I actually sold a bunch of my cards to another Stockton super collector who has like way more than I do, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
But I also have a lot of duplicates. So, right. So like, and again, I loved dealing with him, another Stockton super collector was cool. It was cool to talk to somebody like that and like share that nerddom, right? Because the stuff that I have is pretty, again, it's like 20 years of just collecting and accumulating. And again, I know it's hard on visual, but this is the Stockton binder, right? So it's got Stockton stickers all over it. That's all
I
just
love the outside of that. That is definitely
Yeah.
straight from the childhood for sure.
Right. So like, and then I've got a Tupperware tub full of, cards in more hard, cases and jersey patches and all that. And then literally just boxes of extras. This is just, I pulled all this out to show you. It's a little absurd, and I'm sure my wife would rather I get rid of all of it. But if you're a collector, you know that there are things that you're willing to part with, that you're willing to negotiate with. And my wife doesn't really talk about the Stockton. She never really asks me to do anything with those really. So so that's where again a lot of them go. They go in the binder. I like to look at that, on gloomy days, and just reminds me of my childhood and simpler times. And again, they're all in immaculate shape because I always took care of them as a kid, and I still do now, and keep everybody safe. And I have I have Stockton cards that I keep in a safe. So, it's so super collector probably of Stockton. Since I have stuff in the safe, it's probably a bridge too far.
I'd say you are definitely fitting the bill of a super collector. So let's take a step back though. So, you are, as you kind of described, a short white kid latching on to somebody else that somewhat resembled where you were at in time, right? And
Sure.
John Stockton was that guy for you. I was in a similar situation. I was fortunate enough to be able to play through high school because I continued while I went to a public school. I went to a small public school. And so I was still able to continue to play. But Mark Price was that guy for me. He
Oh,
was,
sure. Yeah,
he was
yeah.
the white guard that
Mark
I
Price. Yeah.
latched onto as kind of the guy that I wanted to emulate when I was in school. So, there's a few other ones out there, that were in that
Mhm.
same era, right?
Yeah.
Why Stockton over maybe some of those other guys who were, similar in stature and
You know,
reputation and talent?
that is, you know what? I guess I unfortunately it's going to be kind of a lame cop. I don't know that I have a great answer for you, Mike. I think that it probably had something to do with um I think it probably had something to do with, just wanting to be something different than because the Bucks were terrible at the
Mhm.
time, and I didn't want to root for the Bulls because Jordan was at his peak and everybody rooted for the Bulls. So maybe it was out of a desire to watch someone else and like root for someone else from a distance. I guess I don't have a specific answer for you why it became John Stockton, but I mean, but once it was him, I mean, it's been him ever since, right? Like it's never not been him. So for whatever reason, yeah, I latched onto him more than probably any other athlete in any other sport. And I have a lot of stuff from other athletes in other sports, but nothing nearly as close to what I have from him.
Have you ever got a chance to meet him or
I have
interact with
not.
him online or
No,
anything
I
like
have
that?
I have not. I don't even I'm sure he doesn't even know that I exist really, but I would like to. I mean, I I know he got in trouble for not being vaccinated and going to basketball games and like, I don't care about that really. Like that, I don't whatever. But I would like to meet him, maybe, or at least talk to him. Like if I could get him to come on the podcast, although I don't know what tie he has to baseball, but I would be honored to get to talk to him and because I think that he's a guy who is endlessly overlooked in the conversation about greatest point guards. And when you really stop and think about it and make people look at the numbers, his assist record and steal record, they're not going to ever get broken. Those are records we also never talk about in the they're never going to get broken category. They're never going to get broken. Neither one of them. Never, 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 never. So the idea that he isn't one of the greatest guards, but he's going to always hold the all-time steal record and he's always going to hold the all-time assist record is kind of insane to me. Like, yeah, Magic was awesome. I watched Magic play, but like Magic doesn't hold a single all-time NBA record in any category, does he?
Right.
Like, I don't know, man. So for me, when Stockton isn't even like the top 5 point guards of all time list, I always take offense to that. I'm always like, get out of here with that he's not top 5 point guard of all time. It's lunacy. You can't be the best passer of all time and not be top five.
Hopefully at some point you'll get a chance to get to meet him, potentially interview him for the show or
Yeah.
something like that. That would be really cool. I know a couple years ago I had tweeted out a photo of some of the material that I got back from Mark Price when I wrote to him as a
Sure.
junior hire or whatever, and he sent back kind of a letter with some other stuff. And I tweeted that out and tagged him in the tweet, and he liked it and made some kind of brief response
Sure.
back, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, maybe this will be the podcast. Maybe this podcast will find him and he'll be flattered. And that'd be cool. I'd be into it. He's definitely someone I would like to meet someday.
That
So
would be cool. Do you have a favorite Stockton card in your collection?
boy, I knew you were gonna ask that, and I even thought about it. I, I'll tell you what, I do have two favorites, but it's because they're custom art cards that were made for me. So one of them was made by my friend Heavy J, and he does custom art all the time, and he made me a Stockton card that I love very much. And then the other one, actually, if you give me a second, I'll take it down. So I like this one because you might want to take a snapshot of that one. It's got dimes on the back of it, so I just think that that's cool. I found this gentleman through Twitter, and he was like, I have an idea for a Stockton card, and I was like, I'll kick you some money for it. And now for the life of me, I can't. But it just says custom handcrafted art, one of a kind collectible, and it is. So like those are my favorite ones. Those are the things that I like the most. Like the cards. Yeah, there are ones that I think are really cool, and there are ones that I like to look at. I do have a soft spot for refractors that have the peel still on them.
Yep.
Like I love those. I have a lot of those, and I love those. Like I'll never peel the plastic off my never.
Yeah.
I'll never peel that protective film off. And like I love those. Those I have a soft spot for those for any like I have a whole Brewers collection of Topps finest cards, even in their worst seasons with all of the stuff still on. Like that I definitely have a soft spot for in cardboard is the refractors that still have the peel on them.
Peel or no peel? That is always the question.
Oh,
that people have.
never peel.
Has
Don't
there
do it.
been a Stockton card that has been the toughest for you to track down? One that you
I
had been
mean,
really after and couldn't land?
The rookie, right? So there are several, like it's the 80, is it the 85 star? There are a couple different iterations. I have two of the three. But the one that's like the rarest one, I've almost had it a handful of times. There's a thing too where like I live a real life. I'm not just like made of money. Like the stuff that I have is from years and years. My brother-in-law and I like we sold and distributed memorabilia for some time. So like my collection is stuff that I've acquired over years and years. It's not something where like I'm just going around throwing money around. I've made trades, I've swung things, right? So it's yeah, it's hard to like spend $800 on one card, even though, I could probably at some point in time,
Yep.
but that's a tough one. Even my voice cracked a little bit. Like it's a tough pill to swallow. That's a lot of cash for something like that when in reality, it's something that I've almost had for much, much, much less in the past. And so it's one that it will continue to elude me, but like, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm suspecting the card market is really starting to level off and it's probably going to crash even more. So the reality is that I will get it someday at the price that I am after. I'll find it at a card show someday. The thing is if you're diligent, and this is just my advice to collectors in general. I don't know if anyone gives advice on here. If you are patient and you are diligent, you will always find what you're looking for at the price you're looking for. You just have to be diligent and you just have to be patient. Keep your eyes peeled always. If you feel like you shouldn't go check that table, you're probably wrong. You should have checked that table. So like a lot of the things that I have that I've found that I've discovered, I have this is a little kind of a little bit of a downer collector story in a way, but I have a signed game used Jose Fernandez baseball that I found. A guy had it in a box of spring training baseballs that he had acquired just from being at spring trainings. Didn't know what he had. Paid $80 for that ball and got it authenticated. It's the real deal. It's a signed game used from spring training Jose Fernandez baseball, and I got it for nothing. You just have to know what things are. You have to educate yourself. If you really want to be in this hobby, you can be smart about it and not ever get ripped off. I've never been ripped off. I've never had someone not send me something I've paid for. I've never had it happen. And that's because if you're smart about it and you do your homework, you won't buy fakes, you won't get duped. Trust your gut. So like collectors, just some advice from years and years of doing this crap. And it's easier to be diligent and patient than to just blow a bunch of money because you're like, I want it now. Don't do that. If you got time, wait it out.
Patience is so key on
absolutely
on both educating yourself before you jump into something, as well as finding it at the right price. It happens time after time, especially for brand new stuff. The rush of new releases coming out, people trying to snap things on the first week of a release, and then
right.
a couple months later it's down below and much more affordable and outside of an 18-month window or whatever that we just experienced, where things were a little bit crazy. That same pattern is starting to come back. So patience is so key. So outside of that rookie card, are there any other kind of notable ones, any oddball? I mean, I love these like food issue and kind of the promotional type cards.
What's wild is I have a lot
that you're looking for.
No, I mean, I have a lot of those, which is wild. Like I have a lot of the really weirdest John Stockton cards that have been made. I have, whole sets of those star cards that they used to make where there were like 10 Stockton cards. And I have a lot of the really weird stuff of his. I don't know. Again, that rookie would be nice. I will say that I'm a big fan of, I don't remember if it's the maybe 2019, there was the Prism Hall of Fame series, and there was like a leopard one. It was like 1 out of 5. And I always thought that was a super cool looking refractor, and it was 1 out of 5. So I always thought that that would be cool to have. I have printing plates. I have one
Mhm.
of one printing plates, and so I have cool. I have interest. I have a lot of jersey patch stuff. So like I have jersey patches of him with Hornacek, dual jersey patches of him with Malone. I have one of him with Gary Payton. Like, so stuff like that is kind of cool to me too. I have a lot of jersey patch cards, and um no, nothing. I'm trying to think if there's anything really weird. No, I mean, I even have two of, I'll show you. I can again, the angle will suck for pictures, but like I even have, where are you dumb things? I have two of these because I find them delightful. So these are Italian. It's like John Stockton's Italian rookie card, but it was in a set of playing cards.
Oh,
So I
wow.
so I have two of them, and I got them graded at different places. Just because I think it's cool, and it's all, the front is all in Spanish. So yeah, so like I do sort of dabble in my collection in general. I really like weird stuff. That's really what I gear more towards, is stuff that's a little more unique, things that are harder to find. Um, Trying to see if I have anything. Oh, here, this is another one. This is a Japanese. I don't know if you can see on the bottom, but it's all in Japanese down there at the
Yep.
bottom.
Yep.
So, and again, it's also part of a playing card deck, right? So like I have some goofy Stockton stuff.
Any
That
other side PCs like on the baseball side or anything
Oh
like
yeah,
that?
for sure. I have I collect a lot of Milwaukee Brewers stuff. Um, I have a lot of cool Hank Aaron baseballs. I have a lot of game used bats. I have a cool little baseball bat collection. I have a nice collection of Negro League and AAG PBL stuff now. I have a few. I have actually a peach, like a plastic peach that's signed by a bunch of the original Rockford peaches,
Okay.
which is cool. Um, yeah, it's mostly baseballs is like what I really. And again, I can kind of flip you around here in a second, but it's a lot of baseballs. I have game used baseballs from important Brewer playoff games, and I have if all right, so this is timely. I One of my favorite pieces. It's a baseball bat, and it's a Cooperstown collectible from Roger Maris's 61 home run season, 1961. Um, I had Tracy Stollard, the pitcher who gave up the 61st home run. He actually wrote the story of that day on the bat for me.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's super cool, and he signed it, and he like thanked me. He was like, "This was really nice," and he died shortly after that. It was kind of sad, but like that's so like I collect things that I feel like when people come by, or like when they want to see my stuff, I can show them, and they're like, "Wow, you have a unique collection." And like, to a Brewers fan, I think I have a really slick Brewers collection. If you're a Brewers fan, I think that my stuff is top notch.
What I like
Um,
about that kind of stuff is, and what you've described is, it's got a story behind it. And I think that's one of the things that I love about building a collection with some intentionality behind it, is that you're able to do that and put together some pieces that are both meaningful to you, but also tell a story. And it just makes things so much more interesting and enjoyable. Anyway, that's one of the things I love about collecting in general.
yeah, and like I said, here's another just perseverance story. I wanted to get a Hank Aaron breast cancer baseball signed in pink ink. All right, there's very few of these that exist, and I was very patient. I was very patient. I was very patient, and I finally found a guy, and I paid for it. I spent the money. It's one of the few things that I was like, oh, but I did it. The ball arrived. I took it out. I looked at it. It was so beautiful. 30 minutes later, Hank Aaron was dead.
Wow.
So timing is everything. So that was very sad. But it's, again, that pink baseball is, boy, I love that thing. I have a few Brewers pink on pink. That's something that like I tried to collect that for a while, but it's very difficult to get them to do. So I really only have three. I have Hank Aaron, Christian Yelich, and Lorenzo Cain did the pink on pink for me. Um, but yeah, collecting is fun. Like it's something that I enjoy and I'll always enjoy. And like I just like what I like. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like you like if you just collect what you like, if you like to look at your stuff, man, you're never gonna not like your collection. Like there's just no way. So I just in case there are comic nerds listening, I do have a small little comics thing. It's not much, but I have three comics signed by Stan Lee, and then I do have a first edition Deadpool.
Very
So
nice.
like, yeah, so like again, collect what you like, you know? I see you have some Star Wars stuff back there, right? Like if you collect what you and who's the wrestler? I'm not a big
Hacksaw
I
Jim Duggan.
okay, all right, all right. So now this is so Sean, my podcast partner and the Hall Very Good, huge wrestling fan, right? Um and so he'll be disappointed that I did not know who that was.
Yeah, Hacksaw. It came in a
Nice.
collection that I got not too long
Very
ago.
cool.
He did an appearance here in our town, I believe, a few years ago, and the person that had this collection, got a chance to meet him and got that autographed. And I was like, well, I'm going to keep
Nice.
that one and put it on my wall. So
Very cool.
we did
Yeah.
that.
So I also, during COVID, the thing that I started to collect that I can't really show you because it's all upstairs is card art. Like again, like I showed you the little piece, but like I really got into was it Project 70? Was that the one that Topps did?
The 2020 one or the second
No,
one,
the
the Project
second
70?
one. So the
Okay.
second one, like I have all the Alex Party cards, all the crazy ones.
Yep.
I have all those. I have all of the Doc Ellis ones that were made. I have a bunch of other ones. Like I think that card art, like if you think about baseball or collecting cards in general, and then you think about what card art is just by its very nature, effectively card art will appreciate in value more than most cards will, because again, only so many will ever be made ever, and then
Mhm.
they'll be gone. That's it. That's why the Alex Pardee ones, like they disappeared so quickly on eBay, and even now they're pretty overpriced considering the fact they were $20 if you just bought them from Tops at the time. But like I think that card art is something that I've definitely got more enamored with, especially since COVID set in. So I encourage everybody to check that out because I think that's a cool thing that's happening.
Yeah, I got several of the Project 2020 cards when they came out, and then I've got the full run of Game Within a Game cards by Paul Jennis.
Oh yeah,
We're
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
doing those. So I had a chance to talk with him a couple times for the show, and I've had a
Cool.
chance to get all of that full run of Game Within a Game, and those are pretty sharp cards too. So yeah, I definitely also have that appreciation for card art. I started off our conversation in my intro kind of mentioning that you were one of the co-hosts of the Hall of Very Good podcast. Let's spend a few minutes talking about that. Tell me about the podcast a little bit. How did you guys get started with that?
Sure. So it actually, I can only take credit for that in so much as the podcast is concerned. So Sean Anderson, my partner, he started the Hall of Very Good website. Ooh, boy, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago, maybe. And Sean's original intention was he was just trying to write about guys who he thought were deserving of more praise for their careers who weren't getting it from the Hall of Fame. So a noble endeavor. Um, I was the editor for Fansided's Reviewing the Brew, which was their brewers website. I was the editor there for, I don't know, a period of time. And during that time, I started doing lots of weird stuff. um, One of the weird things that I did was what we called John Axford Mustache Facts, which was basically a ripoff of Chuck Norris Facts, but about, John Axford had that beautiful
Yeah.
handlebar mustache. And it became so popular that even John Axford was getting into it. And Sean at the time was a member of the American Mustache Institute. This is all true. It sounds so stupid sometimes when I say it out loud. But he was a member of the American Mustache Institute, and he asked if he could publish the mustache facts for his site. Well, it kept kind of steamrolling, and eventually John Axford won the American Mustache Institute's Man of the Year.
There you go.
And yeah, and from that point on, Sean and I we would work together on projects while I still was doing reviewing the brew, and I would do things for Sean on the side. And then eventually, I just started writing for Hall of Very Good. And after a period of time, we both agreed that writing was for the birds. And so we thought talking would be better. So I mean, once we started, it feels so silly to say, but like I never, and again, I know everybody says this, but like if you would have said that, 5 years and like 300 and some like each week we've done an episode for over 5 years, I would have been like, man, get out of here with that. I mean, that's not true. We've missed a week here and there, but I mean, very, very rarely. I don't think I ever would have believed it, probably because like I've done other podcasts. I know how it goes, right? You do as much as you can do and as much as you think people can stomach. And like when we started, I don't think anybody really listened, outside of our friends and family. It wasn't until we started kind of weaving our way into that underground baseball world, right? So the people who now are like family to me, but it's weird. It's weird how it's worked out. And then one day we hand wrote a letter to Larry King, and I firmly believe that that was when everything changed. I think once people saw that we had Larry King on the podcast, I think we gained a level of credibility. And now prior to that, we had really cool people on. We had Hank Azaria on. We had big name people on. But once we had Larry on, we reached a level of just like overall credibility. And then from there, now we've had Bob Costas on, and we've had, it's wild to think about sometimes. One time Cato Kalin called me on my personal cell phone while he was getting his car valeted. Like that's true. Like it's wild sometimes, how things have panned. And like I've hung out with All American Girls Professional League baseball players, and I've hung out with Negro League players, and um, I got to meet Cal Ripken, which was super cool. I've gotten to do things that like young me never probably would have fathomed, me doing. And honestly, we've tried to make a show too that appeals to people who are not just, it's not just about baseball. I probably should express that. We try to have actors on, and we try to have people from other, baseball just kind of gets you in the door, but what we're really trying to do is we're just trying to tell cool stories, maybe stories that people haven't heard before. So like we don't have a lot of like current major leaguers on. We don't talk a lot about what's going on in baseball currently. That doesn't happen all that often. Usually we're talking about, the history, or, rewriting history as it may be, whatever it happens to be. But um, it's a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. And we just had Joe Madden on, and he imparted amazing wisdom upon me. And so you just got to keep hustling, right? You know keep your nose clean and keep hustling, and try to try to make sure people like you. You're not a
Yeah,
butthole.
I think it's been cool to listen and see the guests that you've got on, the approach that you guys take. You're regularly digging at that layer below the surface. You're trying to go a layer below the questions that everybody might ask these folks when they're on a book tour or doing the rounds on the press. And I love that, because you can see, I say that you can see, but you can hear in their voice the excitement of getting a question that's a little bit different than they're normally getting, and they take that and they just run with it oftentimes. And so, that Madden interview was great.
Mhm.
Just hearing the variety of different folks that you've had a chance to talk with, I think is really cool. And
Yeah.
the fun that you guys have with it, I think is really neat. So yeah, if anybody out there hasn't checked out the Hall of Very Good podcast, I definitely encourage them to go check it out. I
Yeah.
think
One
one of
time,
the
one time, Johnny Bench did ask me if I was high, on the show because of a question I asked. So I have that to hang my hat on too. I'm very honored that he thought that.
that is classic. Yeah, I think there's something to, once you get a chance to start doing that and start to build a reputation of being somebody that's worth talking to. It just kind of opens up doors, like you said.
Yeah,
And so I just, like I said, I really enjoy the show and can't
thanks,
wait
man.
to continue to hear more of it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And when we're done here, I'll tell you the Joe Madden key to happiness story. It's a good one.
Well, Lou, thanks for coming on again today. Before we go, why don't you let people know where they can find you and find your show?
Sure. The Hall of Very Good is available on all of your like wherever you listen to your podcast. We're there now. We've broken through all the barriers, so we're on everything. If you would leave us a review, we always appreciate that. Those are always very nice too. Wherever you listen to your podcast, you can find me on Twitter, at least for now, at Lucifer Olsen, Loucifer Olsen. I'm going to apologize up front to your listeners. I'm a little angsty politically right now, but that'll be over here in another week, so it'll go back to mostly baseball. Uh, I live in a hostile state, so I sometimes have to defend the honor of my people. So I do apologize to everyone. It'll be over soon, I hope. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I have Instagram, but don't worry about it. I have TikTok. I wouldn't worry about that either. Those I post on those so infrequently. I wouldn't really worry about either of those.
Well, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Like the athletes we admire, the Sports Card Shop is changing the game. We're not launching threes, bombing drives, or hitting dingers, but we have built a unique gathering spot for all collectors to trade cards, talk sports, play games, and watch their favorite athletes on the big screens. Yes, we've partnered with Panini, Upper Deck, Leaf, Topps, Fanatics, Pokemon, and others to bring you all the latest in sealed wax and singles. But the Sports Card Shop in New Buffalo, Michigan is much, much more. Our recent expansion brings collectible sneakers, Hot Wheels, and more sports and entertainment memorabilia into the mix. Our new Collector's Cave game room is the perfect place to throw a rip party, bring friends, rip packs, trade cards, play billiards, ping pong, shuffleboard, classic arcade, and Xbox games, all while watching your favorite sport on TV. Visit us at thesportscardshop.com. Follow us on social @_sportscardshop, or better yet, visit us in person to learn about special events, party packages, new products, and everything we're doing for you. The Sports Card Shop, connecting people, sports, and the hobby around the world.
I really enjoyed getting a chance to talk with Lou, hear about his John Stockton Super Collection, and his overall approach to collecting and why collecting is meaningful to him and what his goals are when it comes to building a collection. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as well. Let me know if you did, or even if you didn't. Reach out to me on Twitter at @TheMikeSummer. Send me an email at waxpackhero@gmail.com. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at waxpackhero. I'd love to hear your feedback, and I'd love to hear what you want to learn more about. Well, that is all I have for you today, so I'll catch you next time.